Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us on this webinar today. I'm going to give it just one more minute before we get started so that the other folks can join if they're hopping off calls. But again, hope you're having a great day, and we will get started very, very shortly.
Good afternoon to you, Trevor. How are you doing today?
Good, Greg. How about yourself?
Doing excellent. And you, Peyton?
I'm great, thank you.
Excellent.
Full. Perfect. Well, since we are recording, we'll make sure that everyone gets a copy of this. So going forward, if you want to go back and reference it or send to any of your coworkers that might be of interest, definitely let us know. But thank you again for joining today around our webinar, how to grow Veeam revenue and automate recovery. So thank you very much. We are partnering with Cloud IBR today to tell you a little bit about their solution and how you can leverage it, including a live demo so you can see it firsthand how you can take advantage of that. So with that, we can go ahead and move to the next slide.
For sure.
Beautiful. So just some quick introductions. My name is Trevor Nicholson. I am the business development sales executive here at Ingram Micro covering Veeam. So that's both the traditional route as well as VCSP. So if you have any Veeam questions or if you'd like to have some business development conversations about your current situation and how we can help there, definitely feel free to reach out to me after this call. I can help point you in the right direction if you need help really related to anything with Ingram, even if it's outside of my responsibilities. But yeah, appreciate that. And joining us from Cloud IBR, Greg Talone, who is the Chief Executive Officer, and Peyton Powell, who's leading the partner success on their side. So we're excited to tell you a little bit about the offering and how you can take advantage of it. So we'll go over and kind of go over the agenda now. So in this session, we're going to start with the recovery revenue opportunity, how that looks in your current state, and then how we could potentially help expand that with your current offering. We're going to go over why recovery services are harder to deliver and things that you can leverage to make it a little bit easier, how Cloud IBR operationalizes that recovery with testing and all the different proof that they have, which is fantastic. We will also get that live demo, as I mentioned, so you'll see firsthand how to get it set up. And if you have any questions about the infrastructure, definitely let us know. Along with ending with partner Q&A, as well as some information around a trial opportunity. But if you see in the attendee section of the webinar, there is both a chat and a Q&A. So feel free, we'll keep an eye on both of those, but definitely feel free if you have questions, you can add those as we go, and then we'll save time at the end to be able to answer any of those questions. If we can't get to them for any reason, we will absolutely follow up with you after this webinar is completed. But that's kind of a quick overview of the agenda for today. So we can go ahead and go over. And so, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, dealing with partners, there's a lot of questions when it comes to their backup. And, when you're trying to sell your services, I'm sure these come up in those conversations. So, number one, how fast can we recover? Am I going to be down for a half a day? Or is it going to be more in the 20 to 40 minute range? Having those questions and being able to speak to it particularly around that recoverability is critical to the business success, but also their willingness to give you your business and protect those data workloads. Another one is how can we prove that recoverability? So making sure that there's testing and automation and making sure that all those backups are recoverable, because a backup is only as good as how fast you can recover it. And being able to prove so is most effective when it comes to selling these solutions. Another thing we're going to talk about is how can we satisfy the compliance requirements. So this has everything to do from their specific industry, whether that's healthcare, education, financial institutions, but along with things like cyber insurance. I know that a lot of customers are taking a look at that now and making sure that you can meet all of those requirements to allow them to move on to the different steps within that cyber insurance policy. And then again, how can we test it? How often is it tested? And what's your state right now on being able to generate those tests, and how can it be more efficient? And then lastly, what happens during a ransomware attack? Who's the first person that you're going to want to call, and do you have the team assigned and ready to go, as we are seeing more and more increases around ransomware across the board in all different industries. So this is what the webinar is going to really be focused around today, and how we can help you recover. And so if we go to the next one, Greg, I'd love to, hear a little bit more about your thoughts. How are you getting paid for recovery today, and how can we modernize it?
Sure. So thanks for having us today, Trevor. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Most partners that we work with, we've seen there's basically two different types of partners. The partners who've built out data centers with colo, maybe their own data center. They have the infrastructure in place to do disaster recovery, and it's a very time-consuming and complex and expensive service that they have to build all that infrastructure. They spend typically weeks planning for a customer's test, doing pre-testing internally before the test, and it's just very expensive and very labor-intensive. Then there, on the other side, we have the MSPs that we work with who have never offered disaster recovery as a service because of all those limitations, and they just didn't have the capital or the staff to build that type of environment. So what we decided to do a couple of years ago was to build a platform that gives them access to everything they need to do disaster recovery. So the infrastructure, the software, et cetera. And instead of building the infrastructure ourselves, we partner with data center providers throughout the world to do recovery into their data centers. So we'll talk about how that works as we go through it. So what we're seeing today is most of the partners, they're already selling Veeam licensing, whether they're doing retail or VCSP, they're generating that revenue. They're probably selling some type of storage, object storage, Veeam Data Vault, some of the other object storage vendors, et cetera. And then they're selling a backup service around it. So they're managing the backups, checking the logs, et cetera. But what most aren't able to provide is the actual recovery of that. So that when the disaster strikes, or when the customer just wants to run a test, they don't have a service offering around that. And if they do, it's really labor intensive, and most of their customers can't even afford it. So we're going to talk about how to make that, how we made it really inexpensive so that they can offer it to their clients. So I just touched base on a couple of these. Why is it so hard to sell disaster recovery sometimes? Usually it's the cost is the big thing. Everyone knows they need backup, so everyone's buying backup. But when they see a multi-thousand or $10,000+ service for disaster recovery, the traditional services that provide replication and 1-hour RTO, they have a fit for a very specific audience who has the budget and the need for that. But everyone else, they could probably go down for a day. A day is kind of the norm. 24-hour RTO, recovery time objective, kind of fits everyone that doesn't need that 1-hour RTO. And if you can do that inexpensively, easy to sell. So basically, instead of having to put together 50-page run books and maintaining all that equipment and having all the expertise, when it comes to doing disaster recovery, it's not that you just need to be an expert in Veeam. You need to also be an expert in routing and firewall and VPN and all of the things that need to be accessible and available for the customer so that they can actually connect to their environment. So by automating that, we take away the need for all that expertise, and it gives our partners more time to spend with their customers in conversations about, how is the test going to look? What applications are we going to test? And actually walk them through the testing side rather than spending all their time on the preparation side. So,
Yeah, So what Cloud IBR does is it helps you take disaster recovery from a complex project to a simple service offering. You can provide your customers with automated disaster recovery testing, and the peace of mind that they're ready when something goes wrong. It not only helps protect your customer's business, but it also opens the door to new recurring and billable service opportunities for your team. So with that, I'm going to hop into the overview as well as the demo once I'm complete with that. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Greg or Trevor here?
No, I think on the next slide, I'll just cover like the high level overview of what the product actually does. So without you needing to build out a colo and having all the things that you need in place for disaster recovery, we're able to provide that to you on demand. And instead of paying for colo and equipment to sit there year round when not being used, now you only pay for the equipment when you need it. And it's rented by the hour. It's actually billed by the minute. So you're able to spin up a test, run it for 4 hours. And we have customers who spend anywhere from $2 an hour to $6 an hour. So for much less than $100 a month, most customers will be able to spin up their environment, do as many tests as they want, and do it at an affordable price. And I'll let Peyton, you cover the rest of that.
So down here in the bottom left of this little diagram here, this would be the customer's Veeam server on-prem. Then there's that offsite backup with the, Veeam out to a Veeam compatible offsite storage. Cloud IBR is going to reach out via API call. We're going to scan and decrypt that bucket, and we're going to restore all of that into the bare metal cloud up in the top left there. So our software is automating the power on of dedicated servers. It installs Windows and Veeam. It scans and decrypts your bucket and provisions hosts that we restore all of your servers to, as well as build a Linux firewall, all of your networking, OpenVPN, and IPsec VPN within that bare metal cloud. Essentially, what this is doing is it's eliminating the need for co-location at a secondary DR site, which is saving a lot of money that goes into actually having that secondary DR site. With that, I will hop over to the next slide here. I'm going to switch over screens here into the portal so I can give you a little demo on that.
I'll give an example of what. Sorry, Trevor, go for it.
I was just going to say, and a big point to consider as well, and Greg kind of touched on this earlier, but having the knowledge base, in-house can be very hard to get somebody that's across all these different areas of the business, right? And we're also seeing constraints with hardware and different things like that delayed times and things like that. So to be able to have it all tied up in one is really going to save you a lot of time as well.
Yeah, one of our partners was telling us when we first met them that their DR plan for their customers was basically order all the equipment they need, have it drop shipped somewhere to a colo facility, sign a co-location contract under duress while the disaster's happening, get the bandwidth, the routing, the firewall, get that all in place, and then finally do the restore of all their servers using Veeam. And it was a 6-week RTO is what they planned. The first 4 weeks was just to acquire and then physically rack and stack the hardware. And then the last couple of days was the actual the spinning up of servers themselves. So the Veeam part is probably the easiest part of the whole thing, in that as long as you have that environment available, you can do the Veeam recovery if you have that expertise. But most people don't have that hardware available. And depending on what's going on with supply chain at any given time in the year, that RTO could have went to several months, and they obviously, their customers wanted more, but they couldn't afford the alternative option until they met us and started using Cloud IBR.
And even just with another example of the kind of constraints, we're also seeing increases as there's smaller supply, so stuff does get expensive over time, whereas this is more of a consistent billing, so exactly what it's going to cost, so you don't get that bill shock.
All right, go for it, Peyton.
So hopping into the portal here, this is what it's going to look like when you log in. I'm going to hop to the recovery tab down here to show you what the end product is. So this is a list of every recovery that I've run with this account. I'll hop into the latest one here. And it's going to give me a recovery overview. So the successful, the skipped, the failed servers, how long the test took here. as well as a list of all of the servers that were recovered with little screenshots. You can quickly come in to see that the server booted up properly. Down here, it's going to show credentials to the bare metal cloud server, so you'll have access to the Veeam server, the ESXi, as well as the firewall. Also down here is VPN credentials, which I'll hop more into on the onboarding portion where you will add those in, but here it will display the credentials for you. So hopping into the onboarding portion, it typically takes our customers under 30 minutes to onboard. So super simple step-by-step in the portal of what exactly you need to do. So first you would come in here, add backup repository. You'll select your provider from the list, and you'll populate in a little bit more information about that bucket. And then it's going to populate the bucket down below once you click save. You can add in as many buckets here for your customer. There's no limitation on that. And then you're going to come to the next tab here, the Cloud Providers tab. This is where you're going to select the location of where you will recover to. So we have PhoenixNAP and Google Cloud available right now. In the near future, we do have Azure coming along, as well as Wasabi Compute at IBM. So that's something to look forward to, more locations to recover.
I'll also throw into that the Wasabi Compute at IBM will be restoring to Hyper-V instead of ESXi. And then later in the year, we'll also have Proxmox as a destination at multiple of those vendors.
Awesome, thank you, Greg. Hopping to the next tab here is the Veeam encryption keys tab. This is where you'll input your customer's Veeam encryption key, so we're able to decrypt their backups at the time of recovery. Next tab is the network information tab. So a little bit of information about their network. We'll provision a virtual Linux firewall for the customer. So you'll enter in their production default gateways here so that their servers have outbound internet access, as well as any port map or any NAT mappings down here to open specific ports inbound from the internet. Now coming to the next tab is the VPN tab. This is how the customer's end users will be able to access the environment. We have two different options here, IPsec tunnels, which is great for customers with multiple branch locations, and then VPN users, which is great for remote users. They'll receive an encrypted email once the recovery is ready to go with the credentials to be able to log into the environment. Next tab here, BMC Management tab. This is where you will put your IT staff. You're going to whitelist their IPs here so they're able to access the physical hardware, which consists of that Veeam server, the ESXi, and the firewall for any management of that. Once that little bit of information is complete, the onboarding is done. You'll come to the Recoveries tab. You'll click Start New Recovery, and it's as simple as scrolling to the bottom, clicking Initiate Recovery, and that will off their first recovery for them. Now we have three different types of recoveries. The auto shutdown is going to stand up the environment. It'll recover everything over. It'll shut it down. Then the customer and you will receive a PDF report to your email. Up here in the top right, you'll be able to put your logo in, which I can show more on that in the partner portal. You'll put your logo up here, and the report is essentially going to be an exact replica of the recovery overview page. It's great for showing auditors, great for showing management that backups are working properly. And again, they'll receive one of these after every recovery test is complete. Coming back to this page, the manual shutdown is going to stand up the environment. It's going to recover everything over. It's going to stay up and running indefinitely so that you and the customer can come in to test applications and VPN connectivity. Once you're done with the environment, you'll come back into the portal, click to shut it down. It'll shut it down, and again, PDF report to their email. Last option here, pretty self-explanatory. This one's going to be selected during a true disaster recovery. One more thing I wanted to show here under the Settings tab. This is where the automated recovery schedule is set. So by default, this is set to monthly, and essentially every month the customer will have an automated test where it stands everything up, recovers it all over, shuts it down, and they'll receive that PDF report to their email. And then I'm going to go ahead here and hop over into the partner portal to give a little bit of information about that. So I'm going to come in here. You'll see a list of your customers here. When you want to invite a customer, you'll come to the Send Invitation tab. You will input their information. We have monthly and annual options here. You'll select which subscription you'd like to do. Click Send Invitation. It's going to send out that invite to the customer. Once they accept that invite, they will populate in the Your Customers tab here And then once they're in here, you're able to actually hop into the customer, be able to manage them, go through all the onboarding steps we just went with them, kick off recoveries, all of that good stuff. One more thing I wanted to show you guys before I finish off the demo here. I'll come to the settings tab here. I was talking about where you can add in your logo. You can come in here and add it in under the report branding. So you will have, again, your logo in the top right of the recovery report. Anything else you wanted to add on, Greg?
Great stuff, Peyton. Thank you. A couple of things. One, I would say the simplicity of our software is really what we've focused on, is making it easy to onboard and making it work for the masses. It was Danny Allen, the former CTO over at Veeam, who I did a webinar with him, and he said this is brilliantly simplistic. And that's a big point to carry, is it's easy to sell, it's easy to set up. You can literally sign up a customer and be running their first DR test within a half an hour. That's unheard of in the DR world, because it usually takes 3 months to design it, 3 months to sell it, 6 months to implement it, and by the time the kinks are worked out, it's time to refresh all the equipment. So this is a much different mindset from, hey, I can have you, set up with recovery, and it will also, what it's doing is every time this automated recovery runs, it's exfiltrating all of the data that's in your, all of your latest backups from wherever you're storing it onto these Hyper-V or ESXi hosts, and it's validating that the backups are actually readable. We've seen in many occasions where some glitch happened in a customer's environment, and it could have been 6 months ago in one case it was, where they ran a recovery, and by default, we only restore servers that have a valid backup from the past 7 days. You can go up to 30 on that, but our reasoning is if you haven't backed it up in a week, it's probably not in production anymore. Well, this customer ran a recovery and all 32 of their servers were skipped, and it said the last known good backup is from, and it was 6 months, 3 days or so prior. And they said, oh, but our backups run every night. The logs say it's working. And what they learned after opening a ticket with Veeam was that some glitch had happened 6 months ago, and the forever incrementals were sending backups to object storage, and the backups themselves were successful, but there was corruption in the chain at some point. And 6 months ago was their last good backup. So obviously not a good situation to be in, whether you're the end user or the partner who's managing it for them. Tip for everyone: enable the health checks within your Veeam jobs and your copy jobs that send it to object storage. The health checks will uncover that issue. Obviously, you need to be reviewing logs, make sure alerts are set up. But on the other side, Cloud IBR will every month run that recovery. You can also run it as often as you want, and it will prove without doubt that all of your servers are backed up properly, can be restored properly, and will also boot up and be accessible to you and your customer. So Trevor, you want to cover some of this, or am I covering this one? I forget.
Yeah, so I definitely would love to hear, how Cloud IBR can help with this. But to expand on what we're really talking about is making sure that data is recoverable, because your backups are only as good as they can be recovered. So as Greg mentioned, the testing, the reports, it's set up so you get those alerts, and you don't have to have someone take the time out of maybe another project they're working on. So really kind of think of it as a way to save money and then other people's time. So that allows you to steadily grow, other partners, have those conversations and figure out what other solutions you can sell to them, right? I mean, Veeam's obviously a big portion to it, but with the environments that we see with a lot of our customers, they're changing all their time, or they want to implement new features, or they're expanding, right? So they have new branches or areas that they want to focus on, whether that's AI related, or even just making sure that everything is rolling as smooth as possible. So the one thing that I really liked about your offering is how it allows you to take some of the headache or the the grind work out of making sure that those those backups are recoverable, right? Because that opens up the window to allow you to grow and, have those conversations with partners, plan marketing events, really allow you to grow your business while you can be sure that your customers are getting these reports. They feel confident. And it gives you another example to reach out and say, hey, I saw this report came over, we had this one that we want to look at, but definitely, going forward, everything else is running smoothly. So it gives you your time back, which often is the most valuable resource, right? We can't get that time back to have that conversation and really explore the end customer's readiness. And I know we're in all different factors of the business and different verticals and things like that. But again, with education, healthcare, financial institutions, there's regulatory compliance around all this stuff. For financial institutions, sometimes they have to keep data for 7 years. So making sure that that data is recoverable, and in the case of an audit, things like that, and ransomware. You read the newspaper, and unfortunately, it's becoming more and more common. So taking that headache out of making sure that you have that data, and to Greg's point, you can survive if it's a day behind. But if you're looking at a month, 2 months, or 6 months in that first example, that's just not going to allow you to have the confidence for those customers, and that ultimately impacts your own brand, right? So being able to justify and really explain to the customers why it's so important and be able to take some of the heavy lifting is where I think your value proposition is just right on point.
Yeah, one of the things we talked about the other day is how compliance, whether it's state or federal regulations, compliance only affects, a certain amount of industries, verticals. But we've seen happen over the past few years is that as in the supply chain, the larger companies are asking their suppliers, I need you to prove that you have DR in place, you tested, you have plans, etc. And that trickles down. And it's trickled down all the way to 10-person companies who never had a DR plan, might not have even known what DR stood for. As that supply chain trickles down and requires that the compliance reporting they get with our product, that monthly PDF report, when they respond to an RFP to whether it's a new customer they're looking to deal with, or to renew an opportunity, being able to not just check a box and throw a one-page PDF in saying that you have a plan, you are now able to actually provide them with the last 10, 12, 20 PDF reports of every test you've run, to show not only do we have a plan, but we're actually exercising it every month without fail. And if there is an issue, something changes in your environment, our product is going to let you know right away when the next recovery runs. A lot of our customers, after doing a major upgrade, they run their backups that night, and the next day they'll run a recovery. Because it's so simple to run a recovery, they don't have to wait for the next annual test. They can just log in the next day, click recover, come back a few hours later, test their upgraded apps, and it makes their troubleshooting, their compliance, everything, real simple.
Absolutely. And I was just going to say, to kind of expand on that, is because your customers are going to be getting these reports, on a monthly basis, that gives them a level of confidence that they know where their backups stand, right? So that gives you the opportunity to go out and have that conversation around, has their environment changed? Are there other services they'd like to offer? And so ultimately helping you grow the business, and being that trusted resource that creates the continuity around sticking with a partner for a long period of time.
Yeah, and on this slide, some points to bring up. It's truly a set it and forget it type product. You onboard the customer, and it runs every month. There's no maintenance on your side, so the margin is significant, because not only are you selling them the license for Cloud IBR, but you're going to bundle your services around it. So the MSPs are bundling, and we'll talk about the bundling options that we see partners doing a lot. But basically, you're increasing your revenue and margins because you're not babysitting this. It's simple. It's running all the time. Runs every month. And on the stickiness with customers, what we found is when the customer in a traditional DR scenario, they're shopping around for different DR quotes every renewal. And for companies that are using Cloud IBR, they're not going to find anything less expensive out there. It is truly the least expensive DR product on the market. So when they start shopping around, not only is the price going to be the best, but when they're, let's say they want to stick with Veeam, they're talking to a new partner, and that partner isn't using Cloud IBR, they'll give them a price on Veeam. And even if the price for Veeam and the managed services are less, they're going to say, well, what about Cloud IBR? How are you going to recover it? And that's where we're seeing all of our partners get like close to 100% renewal, because it keeps their customers engaged with that monthly report. They're seeing it actually work. So definitely a good differentiation versus the traditional, hey, I'm going to sell you Veeam, I'm going to set up your backups, I'll check the logs, and if anything goes wrong, I'll fix it. Now you're actually doing DR for a very low price. Ask me anything. So AMA, so we do have a couple of questions that came in. So which Veeam protected workloads are currently supported? So we can natively restore any Hyper-V, VMware, or agent-based backup. And when I say we, I mean Veeam. Veeam does not yet have the API calls available to do restores of, say, a Nutanix backup. So what those customers do is they install the agent on their Nutanix guests and back them up as agent-based, and now we can restore anything. So the answer is we can restore any Veeam backup that is VMware, Hyper-V, or agent-based, and any Windows or Linux server, pretty much, as long as it is the right OS level and up, can be backed up by a Veeam agent, and then our software will 100% restore it. As 13.1 comes out this summer, there's going to be some new functionality. Once we've tested all that, there may be the ability to do native restores of Nutanix, or say an Azure. We can restore agent-based backups of Azure servers, etc. Next question: which Veeam repositories are supported as sources? So one thing, we didn't show it in the demo, but we support any object storage, S3 compatible object storage. In that dropdown, if you watch the playback and roll back, you'll see a whole bunch in there. We also support Veeam Data Vault, which is built on Azure Blob, and also AWS Vault, which is built on AWS S3. Plus, there's about 6 or 7 other vendors in there that we support by native. If you don't see your vendor in there, you can pick any one of the other vendors that are S3 compatible and just fill in the information for your company that you use. There's a good chance it'll work. As long as they're S3 compatible, they're all pretty much they should be using the same exact calls. And we also support Cloud Connect. So if there are any VCSPs on the call who are running a Cloud Connect environment, in the partner portal, you can go to the Cloud Connect section, add in all of your cloud gateways. So you can have as many gateways in there as you want from each region of the world where you're storing data. And then your specific customers, when they log in or when you log in on their behalf, you will see your Cloud Connect gateways in there, and then they'll just select that and enter their tenant credentials, and that'll allow them to restore from your Cloud Connect. So can I use this? Last question is, can I use this across multiple customers? 100%. So each customer gets their own license. So you're selling an individual license to each customer. If you saw in Peyton's demo where she went to the partner portal, you send an invitation, you send it to customer A. They accept that invite. They're now linked to you, and you can manage them, onboard them, run recoveries. You can also give them access to it if you want, so that they can log in, run recoveries. They'll get the PDF report white labeled with your logo. And then you, as the partner, you can invite your colleagues as co-managers, and all of your colleagues will have access to each of those customers to be able to do all that work. So yes, full multi-tenant. When each customer recovers, you could recover, all of your customers at once. We're recovering them to dedicated bare metal. So there's no multi-tenancy on the recovery portion. Just within the SaaS interface is the multi-tenancy. On the back end, when we do a recovery, it's 100% dedicated equipment. So you're getting physical bare metal cloud servers booted up with, one per customer for Veeam, X per customer for Hyper-V or VMware, depending on their RAM requirements. That will dictate how many hosts they get. So yeah, it's definitely can handle many, many customers. All right, we have a few more questions coming in. So can malware scanning be performed? So yes, you can do that. That's a manual selection right now. It's not built into the automation, but we can do the malware scanning. That's just a Veeam. We're using Veeam to do the recovery. What we've found in the event of ransomware is people are just not doing that because it can add many, many hours onto recovery. So they're standing them up, letting the recovery run, and they're shutting down the servers that they know are infected, or just canceling the restore. So while this whole automation is running, you have complete access to the VBR. You can RDP to it as their MSP. And if these two servers are the ones that were infected, you don't know how long ago, just power them off or hit cancel so that they don't even restore. And then you can, fix those and then restore them. Next question. We had a couple more. What hypervisor powers the recovery environment? So we have several hypervisors. Right now, we do ESXi VMware at Google and PhoenixNet. Coming in the next probably 4 weeks or so will be recovery to Hyper-V at IBM, Wasabi Compute at IBM Cloud. Shortly after that, you'll be able to recover to Azure. So it'll be hyperscale recovery. And that's going to be a really neat, it's going to reduce the RTO from several hours down to 1 hour. And the reason being is right now, if you have 10 terabytes in your object storage bucket, we need to restore all of last night's backups to the ESXi Hyper-V environment. That can take 4 hours, 2 hours, 6 hours. You'll find out as soon as you run the recovery. With the new instant recovery to Azure that Veeam released, as long as you're backing up to Veeam Data Vault, we don't have to do the exfiltration and the actual restore part. We can just do instant recovery. And because the blob is located in the same region as the hyperscaler compute that we're restoring to, it'll just boot up last night's backup. And you don't have to have an Azure account. We do all that for you. So take all the complexity out of it. And how does failback work? So we got another question. So depending on your hypervisor in your environment and depending on the hypervisor that we recovered to, the process changes a bit. If you have VMware and we recover to VMware, the simplest way to recover back is to use the IPsec tunnel that was built out by our product. You then go into the VBR. You'll go into your VBR, which you want to make sure is part of the backup set and is also recovered to our environment. You'll log into that. You'll add the new VMware hosts to it, and you'll create Veeam replication jobs to send the data back to your VMware environment. And Saturday morning, you do a right click and you do a failover. And it basically will gracefully shut everything down in Cloud IBR, make sure everything's been replicated and power them up. And it's less than an hour switch over to do that. If you're not doing VMware to VMware and it's something that Veeam doesn't support yet, then you basically just continue backing up to your object storage and do your restore to your local environment once you're ready to do the failback. And if it's a really large environment, you can pre-populate that data from the object storage down to your SOBR, scale out backup repository, so that the day you go to do the actual switchback, you only have to copy down the latest recovery point. What do you got next, Peyton? That covered a lot of good questions.
I think just came in for you.
Yep, we got a couple more. Price participate. So we'll cover the pricing and partner program. The pricing was actually on the screen. So if you're watching the video back, you can go back to the partner portal where Peyton was sending the invite to the customer, and it'll show the different pricing for monthly and annual. Most customers start off on monthly, they get used to it, comfortable with it, and then they upgrade to the annual, which has about a 25% savings. So you pay once a year. The partner program will cover that link in a minute. It's free to become a partner. And can application level testing be automated? So the reason we chose not to do application level testing is because that would require our product to have your Active Directory administrator credentials in order to interact with those applications. And in this case, we decided not to have that information. So we're doing the part of the recovery where we're standing up the infrastructure, restoring all the equipment, building out all the networking, firewall, VPN, and then handing it off to you, the partner. And you basically would write scripts, PowerShell scripts, whatever you want to use, where you would RDP to their environment. Because you're an administrator, you have those credentials, run all those scripts and make sure all your applications work, etc., and then tear down the environment.
Awesome. I'll hop over to the next slide then here. So we have 3 different levels of our subscription listed on our website. We have a 4th one specific for partners, which is called the Platinum, which will be in between that Platinum Plus and Gold. So there's flexibility here depending on your Veeam capabilities. If your team has strong Veeam expertise, you can purchase our Platinum offering, which is available to our customer or to our partners in the partner portal. And bundle in your own services to create your own Platinum Plus level solution for your customers. If you don't have that Veeam expertise in-house, that's not an issue. You can always simply sell our Platinum Plus offering, which includes our Veeam expertise and services there.
Yeah, we also do not post any pricing on the internet, so there is no list price published online. We do have suggested list pricing. When you go into the partner portal, you'll see it. But you are free to sell it at whatever price point you want. And by bundling in your services, that's what you're differentiating yourself from one of the other partners who sells our product. So you can take any of these levels that fit each individual customer and sell them. You could sell any level to any different customer. So it's a mix. They don't all have to be on the same version. And that Platinum Plus, that is basically giving you, if you're one of the MSPs who doesn't have enough staff to be on call 24/7, has enough Veeam expertise to do backup and manage that, but also doesn't have all of the Veeam expertise in the background for troubleshooting. Basically, the Platinum Plus gives you that access to our Veeam certified engineers so that we can help you out with whatever you need. Cool. So offers today. Everyone who has attended or is watching the video, you can become a partner for free. So you go to our website/partners. There's a typo in that. It shouldn't have a us.cloudibr.com in it. It should just be cloudibr.com/partners. Sorry about that. And that will bring you to our website where you can sign up as a partner. And the free to become a partner, once you log in, you have the option of signing up for a 30-day free trial. In that free trial, you'll have access to the silver level for 30 days, as well as unlimited free usage for recoveries at PhoenixNAP during those 30 days. They're currently the only partner who gives us the 30-day trial. If you want to trial with any of the other companies, you will have to add the credit card so that you can pay for usage at that cloud during the recovery. And basically, you log in, sign up, very simple, onboard yourself, put in a bucket, fill out a few forms. Half hour later, you run a recovery. You'll see what your RTO is. You can test it against your environment. And the same 30-day trial also goes to your customers. So anytime you send an invite, as long as you leave it at the default silver, they will also get a 30-day free trial. So you send it to them, they accept it, They're logged in, you log in, you onboard them, you start running recoveries for them. They'll see it working, they can interact with it, they can actually do a full-blown DR test. And by the end of the 30 days, everyone that that signs up always continues. Most will go month to month for a couple of months till they get really comfortable with it, and then they'll switch to annual.
If you guys would like to continue the conversation, you can always book a one-on-one session with me. You can visit our website, cloudibr.com, and use the booking link there to find time that works for you. I can walk you through any questions or help design a solution for your customer. So just feel free to sign up there.
Wonderful. And then part of the excitement is we are raffling off 3 Amazon gift cards, but I did see that there's one more question, Greg. So just really quickly, how do we verify that the VM has recovered successfully?
Sure, great question. So in Peyton's demo, if you're watching the recorded version, you can scroll back to where the recovery ran, and you hover over the screenshot link, and what our product does is for every server we recover, we will take a screenshot after it's booted up. So you'll have a screenshot of that server depending on the OS, at the screen that it boots up to. So Windows server, you'll see the Windows background. For Ubuntu, you'll probably see username prompt. Different appliances that we have seen, will boot up to whatever they boot up to on the console. So you'll get a screenshot of that. And that's what you get by default for every single test that runs. For application level, I mentioned it earlier, that's where the partner, that's where you want to bundle in these services. If you're managing the customer's environment and you're a full-blown MSP who manages their day-to-day environment, you will basically want to write scripts that every time you run Cloud IBR, you can then RDP to their environment, log in as a administrator, run the scripts against it. You might have scripts that ping all the servers, then scripts that check services, etc. So anything you want to do in the environment, it's completely isolated. By default, the recovery environment does not have outbound internet. So it's in a completely isolated sandbox. Only if you choose to give it outbound internet access will it have that. During a real DR, when you pick that option, you don't have to worry about that option. It has internet by default. So that answers that.
Wonderful. Well, I think that's all the questions for now. Does anyone have any questions before we start to wrap up? Feel free to use the chat, and thank you for asking them, because they really, really great questions, and so we appreciate that very much.
What I'll add in also is we work very closely with our partners. So this isn't just something you sign up for online and never talk to us again. You have full access to us for learning how to sell the product, asking questions. Our team makes themselves very available so that we can help you be successful in selling it, supporting it, and being profitable from it. That's the end goal of your business. You started the business to make money, and we also like to make it enjoyable. So we got a great team to work with. You can schedule the one-on-one with Peyton. She'll help you out with anything that you need, and then anything that needs design questions, etc. She'll get us all involved from an engineering standpoint, and we take feedback from our partners all the time to what are we going to do next in the product. So we're always adding new functionality. So any questions you have, any suggestions, you give them to Peyton and the team, and we will definitely put them into the hopper for what we're going to work on next.
Wonderful. And as we mentioned, you will get a copy of this recording. So again, feel free to reach out if you have any follow-up questions after the fact. Share with any team members within your organization that you think would find this helpful. And definitely, take advantage of that free trial and set up a partner discussion with Peyton. I think, having that one-on-one time to be able to really talk about a specific use case could be tremendously helpful. So definitely leverage this as an offer for being an attendee. And so now that we will give you a few minutes back, but we're going to raffle off these Amazon gift cards really quick. So I put your guys' name in the generator, and the three names that came out were Eric Young, Tariq Sammy, and Joe Valente. And I hope I pronounced your names correctly, but you'll be getting an email around those the gift cards and how to claim them. So again, definitely let us know so much if there's anything that we can do to help you. But I know your time is precious, and so we really appreciate it that you took the time this afternoon to learn about this offer and how you can take advantage of it. But one more time, we're here for anything, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Trevor, for having us today. We appreciate Ingram Micro support. Great partner to work with. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.